Before I begin to talk about anything else, can we please give Ben Pearlstein and Katie Greenman a massive round of applause? Over all these uninspired people who were leaving in between, you know, and I know all of you were paying attention, and I love that, and I love Katie, and I like people, I like all of you a lot because you stayed, and so when I came to Tufts, I decided to study politics, because from what I understood, politics affect people on an almost daily basis, and they have a large amount of impact on how the ups and downs of our life might go. But because I also wanted to educate myself on world affairs, I started reading the news more carefully as well. And I got really confused. Because in my classes, I was being taught that politics has everything to do with governments, the relationships between governments, and the government's relationship to us. And in the news, I was reading a story where a very large third party was involved that nobody on this campus seemed to be talking about. Corporations. So I spent a lot of time these last 3 years trying to figure out where corporations really sit in our society. In the 1800s, they were kind of like this. They were chartered by states, expressly created for the purpose of the public good, heavily, heavily regulated. Today, they look a lot more like this. A lot of power, a lot of influence, and a lot of money. So today, corporations are equal to governments in many ways. And I use that word equal very carefully. Because when we think of a government's relationship to us, we think about the people we've elected. We elect them on the basis of their ethics. We elect them because we think when they go ahead, they're going to do a good job in creating public policy that's going to affect us. Now, since lobbying has become a $9 to $12 billion industry, corporations have the same amount of impact on our public policy as the officials we elect. So, in essence, we are citizens of corporations today in the same way that we are citizens of governments. The problem is, our conversations, especially inside the classroom, don't reflect this reality. The even bigger problem is, because they don't, we don't consider it our right to have the same kind of knowledge about corporations as we do about our governments. We don't watch them carefully. We don't ask, how are they affecting our public policy? We don't start using this right and thinking about corporations as political players pretty soon. We might end up looking like this.
You mean get off my own land?
Don't blame me, it ain't my fault.
Whose fault is it?
You know who owns the land, the Shawnee Land and Cattle Company.
Who's the Shawnee Land and Cattle Company?
It ain't nobody, it's a company.
They got a president, ain't they? They got somebody who knows what a shotgun's for, ain't they?
Oh, son, it ain't his fault because the bank tells him what to do.
All right. Where's the bank?
Tulsa. What's the use of picking on him? He ain't nothing but the manager. He's half crazy himself trying to keep up with his orders from the east.
And who do we shoot?
If I did, I'd tell him. I just don't know who's the man.
So that's a clip from a fantastic film called Grapes of Wrath about the 1930s and 40s Depression. And for those of you in the back who did not catch the gist of what was being said, this guy rolls up in a car and he tells these 10 farmers, dudes, you gotta get off the land. And they're like, who do I have to shoot to stay on this land? He says, you can't shoot anybody at a company. The company is a nobody. And anyways, they got their orders from the bank. Who do I shoot at the bank? Says this man. You can't shoot anybody at the bank. The bank got their orders from the east. And so, the moral of the story is, the modern day version of the shotgun is our law system. We don't ask, who can I shoot? We ask, who can I sue? And herein comes, I know, American audience has to laugh at this. There's so many amazing suing stories. It's like one of the things that fascinated me about America when I first came here. So, coming back to the original point, we asked, who can we sue? And here lies the next big problem with corporations. They reinvent themselves on an almost daily basis to push their profit margins. And our law system has simply not been able to keep up. We were unprepared for the BP oil spill in terms of our law system. The company got away with a pretty large monetary fine for what's going to be decades worth of destruction to livelihoods and the coastlines. We were definitely unprepared for the financial crisis. Big banks pretty much got away scot-free. I think about 5 other speakers have covered that, so I'm not even going to talk about it. And we're really unprepared for global warming. And a lot of these things are being caused by corporations. Now, let me make it very clear. I'm aware of the fact that all corporations are not evil, and that many of them provide us with essential services and fantastic products that have revolutionized our world and really help us live lives every day much, much, much better than we were ever able to do before. But the point is that whether their implications are good or bad, corporations have entered every single realm of our lives. And if we want our law system to reflect that, our culture needs to change. And if our culture needs to change, our mindset needs to change. And if our mindset needs to change, we need to start thinking of corporations as what they are, especially in the classroom, political players. Because we cannot fix the problem until we acknowledge it. Companies are winning the game right now. We haven't given them any incentive to think about us as citizens, to think about us as watching them. Here's what happens when we do push them a little bit. Your grocery stores did not look like this 5 years ago. Natural, organic. These cows were grazed on fresh, open pasture. You have seen it. You know you've seen it. Very, very loud labeling. And the reason this happened is because we started getting worried about what we were putting into our bodies. We now have departments around environmental studies and classes around sustainability that push us as students to think about the sources of our products. We started hesitating at the grocery store from picking up something from the shelf. And companies notice this because companies are watching us all the time. They watch how we think, how we move, who we're interacting with, what that means. They manipulate us to a pretty large extent. And if we want to flip this paradigm, if we truly want to exert the kind of control over companies that they exert over us, we need to start studying corporations just like they study us. How do I make this happen? It's a pretty big, project. Sounds really complicated, yada, yada, yada. I know. But the thing is, we really can begin here. We're one of the most progressive institutions in the country. President Clinton said so last week. He said, we push leaders into every sector. The corporate sector and the government sector. So what kind of leaders do we want? What kind of mindset do we want them to be moving into the world with? Don't we want our political leaders, as soon as they step into the role they're playing, to be already cognizant of the fact that corporations exist and that we need to be about just as wary of some major corporations as they are of, Russia, China, India, whoever you want to talk about. I'm Indian, I'm very friendly. And when we think about leaders in the corporate sector, we want them to go in with the mindset thinking of us not just as consumers, but as stakeholders, as citizens, to be thinking beyond the shareholder mentality. So I began this talk with the question, which corporation are you a citizen of? And I think for most of us in this room, we can answer Tufts University. We pay a very large amount of money to go here. And we get a very nicely packaged finished product in the form of a degree. But have we ever really thought of ourselves as stakeholders? As asking questions about, are we really satisfied with our curriculum? Are we really satisfied with where we are? Because universities are sites of knowledge creation, where knowledge is created and where knowledge is dispersed. It is a place where we get our tools for informed decision making. And we should be informed decision makers while we are here. So today, take this idea of corporations as political actors as part of every interaction that we're having on a daily basis, into every conversation that you have, especially in the classroom. Because we don't want to spend the next couple of decades thinking about the same problems we did the last couple of decades. And the power for this really does lie with us. Thank you.